Welcome to the third edition of the Ohio Mile Split at the Line. I'm Nathan Kopp, joined by Jim Finley. We are located today in the press box at Highcamp Stadium on the campus of Wayne High School as we prepare for the 15th annual Wayne Invitational, Thursday, May 2nd and Friday, May 3rd.
In this episode, we're going to have on Coach Mike Fernandez of Wayne to preview this year's Wayne Invitational. We'll also bring you up to speed on some of the top performances these past 2 weeks since our last podcast, and explain why you might sometimes see a difference between the marks that are posted in your results and the marks that are posted on your athlete profile or in the rankings.
And at the end, Jim, we're going to tie in a few emails, some questions that some viewers wanted to ask you about some track rules versus some of the other sports and their rules. But let's get started by running through some of the recent meet results. The Eastern Relays in Louisville, Kentucky had an impressive 5 Ohio number 1 marks set at the meet. Both the Mason boys and girls teams set the top mark in the 4x800 relay at this meet. Mason's Lauren Wood also ran a phenomenal 3200, improving her PR by over 22 seconds to a state-leading 10:35. 22 seconds, that's pretty impressive. In the boys 3200, Tip Sam Morton dropped another low 9-minute 3200-meter run by posting a 9:04 for the win. Another Tippecanoe athlete, Grant Koch, Coach Koch, got it right in one of them, I guarantee. Post Ohio's top mark in the 800 meters run with a time of a 1:53.87 to take second at the meet. Westville North's Jacob Dunford finished fourth in the 1 mile to post a new Ohio leading time of 4:10.45. And Jacob will be at the meet at Wayne, correct?
So will Grant, yes. Grant and Sam should be here too. The Mansfield Mehawk Relays also saw 5 Ohio number 1 marks during the meet, including Minerva's Kaylee Lightfoot's Ohio leading time of 2:15.41 in the 800. On the boys' side, St. Edward's Steele Wasik posted an Ohio leading time of 14:20 in the boys' 110 hurdles during the prelims. And in the 300-meter, Glenville's William Robinson dropped a 38.33 to secure the top Ohio spot.
At the Chris and Rita Summerlot Field Event Classic, Dylan Dyke of Waverly and Max Lidham of Defiance duked it out in the hammer throw. Lidham ended up claiming the number 1 spot in Ohio with a toss of 199.7 to Dylan's 196.5.
In other throwing news, St. Edward's Aaron Zadella was the top American finisher in the boys' discus throw at Penn Relays. Aaron finished third with a personal best throw of 192.11, which is good enough for the 7th best throw in the nation. The top Ohio mark, however, and the 4th best throw in the nation, belongs to Salem's Anthony Shivers, who uncorked a 194.5 at a dual meet this past week.
Tamia Easley of Columbus International jumped an Ohio leading 19.4 in the long jump at the Gilchrist White Invitational.
And Stephanie Ferrante posted a new Ohio leading time in the 100-meter dash by rolling to an 11.94 at the Lake Health Systems Ranger Relays. Don't forget to check out the interview with Stephanie on the front page of Ohio Mile Split this week.
I'm joined now by Wayne track coach Mike Fernandez, better known from the coaching community as Fern. Coach, as we get set for the 15th annual Wayne Invitational, 48 teams coming in from all over the state. We'd like to get a little preview now as that meet gets ready to start.
Yeah, we have some teams. We have, like you said, 48 teams coming to the meet, 19 different conferences from around the state that's going to be represented. I would think right now every event has something special to watch, but I would probably gear it towards the girls' 1600-meter race right now, where we have Beaver Creek Sydney Lair. We have Mary Kate Vaughn from Oakwood, the super freshman runner, and Megan Vogel from West Liberty Salem. You know, and in addition to those 3, you still got Lauren Hoover from Hilliard-Davidson. I mean, we got 3 girls that are probably under 5:05 in the mile and could probably threaten the meet record of 4:58 held by Carly Hamilton of Springboro. So to me, that would be probably the girls' race to watch. And for those who aren't familiar, we have an elite version of this race where we take the top 16 times and we'll enter them in Friday night at the slot where the 1600 is. And then we have what we call the Rising Stars for the more novice and developmental races prior to that race. So we can kind of showcase those kids, but get those younger kids kind of PR at a big time invitational also. As for the boys, I think you got to stick with the distance. I think with Sam Warren from Tip City coming, Jacob Dunford from Westerville North. You have a strong distance group that's coming. I think the boys, any boys distance race, because it depends on what the coaches put them in. Mason's got some kids, Alex Naughton, just to name some off the top of my head. Centerville's going to have Josh Steibel in the 2 miles. So I think the boys' race is going to come down to what distance races the coaches are going to do.
And sometimes as you get close to the district, regional, state meet, you like to give a little cross-training. Maybe kids that traditionally ran the mile will do something different as they get ready.
Right.
It is a 2-day format meet. So what's going to happen on Thursday? A lot of finals, a lot of prelims on Thursday, and then finals on Friday. What finals are we running
Right.
on Thursday?
A couple years ago, we started going to a 2-day meet because the 1-day meet was just pretty long with the competition that was coming. So what I decided to do was we're going to preliminary the short races, the 100 hurdles, the 110 hurdles, the 100 dash, and 200. And we'll semifinal those, take the top 8 times to Friday's finals. The final races we're going to have is the distance medley, the shuttle hurdle race, and the 4x800 will end the day for running events. Field events, we're going to have boys and girls long jump. We'll contest both of them as a final on Thursday. We'll contest the pole vault, and the pole vault's going to be kind of neat because we're going to compete everybody, and we're going to suspend it at 12 feet for the boys and 9 feet for the girls, and we will continue competition the second day. And everybody that's left will consider that the elite portion of the pole vault. As for the throws, we're going to go with, I believe it's boys shot put and girls a hammer and discus on day 1, and then the ladder on day 2 for the other ones. And then
Go ahead. And on those, just like something like the long and the high jump and
Right.
the shot and disc, are there minimum marks?
yeah, we'll have minimum marks, and we have it set, and I said it for the coaches. I don't remember what they are right now, but it'll be just kind of like doing invitational style, top 9 to the finals, and you'll get 3 jumps and then 3 more jumps for the people that make the finals. We'll have minimum marks. We'll get your first legal jump in or your first legal mark, and then they have to hit that minimum mark to get another mark measured. Trying to speed it up a little bit. With the amount of teams we have, we don't really want to stay late. We kind of want to reward the kids, but we don't want to punish the good kids either.
The way I look at it is, I'm a kind of a baseball guy. It's kind of like the run rule for baseball or softball. It speeds up the meet and
Right.
keeps the competitive balance going. So,
Absolutely.
last thing I wanted to ask you is, I noticed you talked about a few events that aren't typical events, maybe for a regular, just invitational. What events are people going to see there that they wouldn't see if they went to the state meet?
Well, you got the distance medley, and then you want to talk about races to probably watch also is the distance medley boys and girls. That's typically not ran at most invitationals. A lot of relay meets, you run it a lot in college, but I think the distance medley, the shuttle hurdles is something else. Being a hurdle guy, that's kind of my thing right there to add the shuttles. Triple jump, we're trying like heck to get the triple jump into the state meet, and so I think the more meets that host it, maybe the state will understand they should have it at the state meet. So we're going to have that there, and plus the hammer throw. So we have your normal 17 events, and then we added those 4 or 5 to a meet, which I think will benefit bigger teams. It definitely is going to help a distance-oriented team having a distance medley team, and it's going to help some shuttle team, and it's going to help a field event team. So, I mean, you got one for everything in there.
And the last thing, as a former high school coach, the highlight for me and for several coaches for the Wayne Invitational is the hospitality or media coaches room.
Right.
Outstanding food.
Yes.
Do you want to comment on that?
Well, my mother makes the food, and so I have to also help her make it. But yeah, I've heard it's pretty good, and that's why the teams keep coming back.
And I'm not a coach, but I will be taking.
Absolutely.
I will be taking it up on the media this time. So,
absolutely.
Coach Fernandez, we wish you the best of luck with your meet. Hope for good weather, and we will see you on Thursday and Friday.
All right, thank you very much.
We'd like to thank Coach Fernandez for being the first visitor guest on the Ohio Moss Without the Line. Hopefully not the last. Jim, before we get into some of the questions, I wanted to mention the boys shot put, which has 10 guys in it at over 50 feet. That should be a very interesting competition.
That's going to be a great competition. You got 2 from Wayne, you got a couple from Mason, Centerville, all the big time people. Lancaster's bringing in a few that are going to be good. Boys, this is going to be pretty good too. You got Lavelle Peterson, who recently just went 184, along with a couple kids at 160, 170. Dylan Dykes throwing 175. And then in the boys hammer, you got Dylan Dyke, who just finished up at 196. Lavelle Peterson's been at 186. Rob Landers has been at 172. And Max Latham might make the trip down. He hasn't confirmed or denied yet if he's going to.
And typically when you get all those guys with those good marks, somebody pops off a big one and everybody's competing once we get started. As we look at some of the questions and emails we've gotten over the last week, question came up: why marks on athlete profiles and the rankings don't exactly match the marks posted in the results? Why does that happen sometimes?
Well, that's a good question, Nathan. If a meet is hand-timed, it is really hard to compare that mark to a mark that's set at a meet with fully automatic timing. or fat timing as it's called. Track and field statisticians, 30, 40 years ago, around the 70s, saw that hand time was almost always faster than the fat times captured due to human error. So the statisticians decided to round up times to the next tenth of a second and then add 0.24 seconds to be able to give a reasonable comparison of a hand time versus a fat time. If I know a meet or even suspect a meet is hand time, I put it in as hand time. It will automatically round up results for races 400 meters and below, round it up to the next tenth, add 0.24 seconds before it puts it into the rankings and onto profiles. Many meets report hand time results as fat results though. And you can tell if a meet's hand timed or fat by how many decimals it goes out. If it only goes out to the tenth of a second, it's hand timed. If it goes out to 2 to 100, it's supposed to be fat. But there's some that I have to make a guess on that. They just seem too fast, they're not consistent. Sometimes I get it wrong, and trust me, we've had the emails this week about that. I'll go back and I'll fix it, but you gotta give me a little bit of time to do it. One thing I do ask meet directors to do, especially if you're using fat, please do not stop recording time for athletes after placing positions or after a certain number of athletes have crossed the line. If you have fully automatic timing, it's easy to do, and just please use it to make sure that every student athlete that runs gets their time posting their results. They want to see it, their parents want to see it, it's going to make your meet better, and then they're going to get their times on mile split as well.
Even if they didn't place, it's amazing what parents want to see. One last question, Jim, I had came from an email from a distance parent who wanted to know, like we talked about earlier, there's run rules in baseball and softball and things like that, but why are there no rules about kids running the 2 mile or the mile? He says, I come to these meets and I see kids running, a 6:30 mile in the boys or a 13-minute 2 mile, and they're getting lapped, and he feels like once somebody gets lapped in the mile or the 2 mile, they should be pulled off. Any thoughts on that? I know that would probably upset some people, but at the same time, some of these elite distance kids feel like they're costing them seconds, tenths of seconds when it comes down to it if they can't pass them.
There are meets that do pull kids off once they get lapped, especially when you get to the collegiate level. Not so much of the high school, but some of your bigger meets will do that. It's always a shame if that happens, but everybody has the right to compete. But coaches, you also got to know if your kid can compete in that meet. If they can't, don't put them out there, don't get them embarrassed. But if they're going for a PR, everybody's PR is just as valid as somebody else. If you're going for a 9-minute 2 mile, or you're going for the 11, 12-minute 2 mile PR.
Fair enough. I think that's it for this edition of At the Line. Make sure, if not attached to the podcast, you check out some of our interviews with some of our other athletes, and stay tuned Friday and Saturday for coverage of the 15th Annual Wayne Invitational.